Lamont mentioned being told to read Look Homeward Angel. 2 days ago, I just saw this incredible movie called Genius, which is the relationship between Thomas Wolfe and, I just forgot his name, the editor, Max Perkins.
Right.
And it has all of Thomas Wolfe's language in it. As he walks in with 1,000 pages, you know, I said, okay, you know, you need to reduce this to 2 paragraphs. And it's the whole issue of what editing is, and it's full of Thomas Wolfe's language, and it's an amazing movie. The other thing is, when did Mad Minute come out?
What?
Mad Minute.
Oh, around 1986, maybe? Maybe earlier.
Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was viciously anti-war, and I had no sympathy for the American soldier until I heard Lamont read Mad Minute, which made me realize that the American soldier was a victim of the war in Vietnam, as well as Vietnamese. So he was, we've known each other a long time. He was an important, and he's become a wonderful writer. I'm not a poet. I don't write really anything, except write-ups for the poets we present. We present 130 poetry programs a year and publish about 35 books. I tell you what, I don't even like poetry.
Should have fooled us.
What I like is words, and what you can do with words. You know, you can write a 300-page novel, you can write a 3-page poem, you can write a 3-line haiku. How do you reach someone? You know, the issue is communication. How do you make someone feel what you feel, see what you see? And it's a dual situation. It's internal and external. It's personal reality and social reality. And I made this list of poems that I really like, that I'm going to have some other people read. I mumble, and I mispronounce things.
We can understand you. Keep going.
Actually, I'm going to have Musmino read Dennis Brutus's For My Sons and Daughters. You know, and what I love is people who write about the things you're not supposed to write about, the things you aren't supposed to say. And one of those things, whether you're an artist or an activist, and Dennis was both, is your children pay. You know, now this poem. Please read this poem.
So I also used to go to Robin's. My mom used to take me to Robin's bookstore as a kid, as I've told you before. So Larry really is, you know, you've been a big addition to my world in Philadelphia, you know, so appreciate you. Thanks for inviting me here. And Larry told me a little bit about Dennis Brutus. And I did not know much about him before Larry told me about him. And between Lamont and Larry, you know, I'm really honored to be reading Dennis's work. So this poem is called For My Sons and Daughters by Dennis Brutus. Memory of me will be a process of conscious and unconscious exorcism. Not to condemn me, you will need forgetfulness of all my derelictions, and kindness will be only yours if you insist on clinging steadfastly to some few small exaggerated symbols, like this much he cared, or thus he did. And if he could, he would have done much more. This I can understand, for my affection enables me to penetrate the decades and your minds, and now I seek no mitigation. I would even welcome some few words of scorn, but it might help if, seeing this, if after adulthood's bitter years, you are enabled then to say, he really cared then. Really cared? Our fictions have some substance then. I will not ask you then to add what I do now. My loneliness, my failures, my amalgam wish to serve, my continental sense of sorrow drove me to work, and at times I hoped to shape your better world. So thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Larry.
Dennis was an incredible poet and activist. Lamont introduced me to him in, I forgot what year.
I published 3 of his books.
And
I introduced you to you in 1986.
1986, when Mandela was being released, like there.
He wasn't released till the early 90s.
Oh.
I was the one that whispered in Dennis's ear, Mandela's free.
But what Dennis does, I mean, who writes about the cost to your children? And it's always there. And that's what I love about, you know, to communicate that sense of feeling and understanding of the emotion. All this stuff is just wonderful. I'm going to read you a poem, and I tend to cry. You know, I cry a lot. That's okay. One of the issues, I mean, we know what post-traumatic stress syndrome is, right? Intellectually. But how do you feel it? What does it mean? You know, this is by Brian Turner, called at Lowe's Home Improvement Center. Standing in aisle 16, the hammer and anchor aisle, I bust a 50-pound box of double-headed nails open by accident. They're oily, bright shanks and diamond points like firing pins from F-16s and M14s and M16s in a steady stream. They pour on the floor, constant as shells falling south of Baghdad last night, where Bosch kneeled under the chain guns of helicopters stationed above, their tracer fires hypnotic geometry of light. At dawn, when the shelling stops, hundreds of bandages will not be enough. Bosch walks down the aisle 16 now in full combat gear, improbably worn out from fatigue. A rifle strung at his side, his left hand guiding a 10-year-old boy who sees what war is and will never clear it from his head. Here, Bosch says, take care of him. I'm going back in for more. Sheets of plywood drop and the airy breath of mortars the moment they crack open in shrapnel. Mower blades are just mower blades, and the Troy-built self-propelled mower doesn't resemble a Black Hawk or an Apache. In fact, no one seems to notice the casualty collection center high marks out in ceiling fields, aisle 15. Wounded Iraqis with IVs sit propped against boxes of 94 sample Cardozo phones, hover in the slow revolution. The forklift driver over-adjusts, swings the tines until they slice open gallons of paint, sienna dust and lemon sherbet, ship-hardened blue, cooling the aisle where Sergeant Rimple walks through, carrying someone's blown-off arm, cradled like an infant, handing it to me, saying, oldest Turner. We might find who it belongs to. Cash registers open and slide shut with the sound of machine guns being charged. Dead soldiers are laid out at the registers on the black conveyor belts. The people in line reach for their wallets. Should I stand at the magazine rack reading Landscaping with Stone or the complete home improvement repair book? What difference does it make if I choose tumbled travertine tile, Pachachio marble, or black absolute granite? Outside, palm trees line the asphalt boulevards. Restaurants cool their patrons who will enjoy fireworks exploding over Bass Lake in July. Aisle number 7 is a corridor of lights. Each dead Iraqi walks amazed by Tiffany posts and Bavarian pole lights. Motion activated incandescents switch on as they pass by. Irreverent sentinels of light, fleur-de-luz, and the luminaire mural exterior. Welcome them to Lowe's Home Improvement Center, aisle number 7, where I stand in mute shock, someone's arm cradled in my own. The Iraqi boy reaches down to slide his fingertip in retro blue colonial and interior latex, before writing T for tourniquet on my forehead. I find that amazing. I just find it amazing. It's what a good poet does is takes you somewhere else, makes you feel things. I'm not academic, but I really don't care about form. I care about emotion and society, and they come back and forth, and they're the same, internal and external. Which brings me to the craft. Aaron, you're going to read book your lecture on craft?
When I first heard this or read it, this poem by Noor Hindi, who I believe is an Ohio poet, but who has a more global reach. Fuck your lecture on craft. My people are dying. Colonizers write about flowers. I tell you about children throwing rocks at Israeli tanks seconds before becoming daisies. I want to be like those poets who care about the moon. Palestinians don't see the moon from jail cells and prisons. It's so beautiful, the moon. They're so beautiful, the flowers. I pick flowers for my dead father when I'm sad. He watches Al Jazeera all day. I wish Jessica would stop texting me Happy Ramadan. I know I'm American because when I walk into a room, something dies. Metaphors about death are for poets who think ghosts care about sound. When I die, I promise to haunt you forever. One day, I'll write about the flowers like we own them. Noor Hindi.
That poem was mentioned in an article. By Tom Nugent. He wrote an article called The Post-Trump Future of Literature, and he mentioned that poem, so I, of course, had to download the poem. I ran a bookstore for 50 years, you know, and when something is of interest, I just buy every book there is on it, because you need to get multiple views of things. I was going to have Bob, would you read this poem?
Is the print's big enough?
Sure. This is a poem by Donald Hall. It's called Without. I heard him read it at the Dodge Festival, and it's about the death of his wife. My wife died last year, and so it's meaningful. And you had that dual, you know, it made you cry for what he was saying, and it made you amazed at the way he could say it.
This is Without by Donald Hall. We live in a small island stone nation, without color under gray clouds and wind. Distant, the unlimited ocean acute. Lymphoblastic leukemia without seagulls, or palm trees without vegetation, or animal life, only barnacles and lead, colored mosses that darkens when months did. Hours, days, weeks, months, weeks, days, hours. The year endures without punctuation. February without ice, winter sleet. Snow melts and recovers, but nothing without thaw, although cold streams hurtle. No snowdrop or crocus rises, no yellow, no red leaves of maple without October. No spring, no summer, no autumn, no winter, no rain, no peony thunder, no wood thrush. The book is 1,000 pages without commas, without mice, maple leaves, windstorms, no castles, no plazas, no flags, no parrots, without carnival, or the procession of relics, intolerable, without brackets or colons. Silence without color, sound without smell, without apples, without pork to rupture gnash, unpunctuated, without churches, uninterrupted, no Orioles, ginger noses, no opera, no without fingers, daffodils, cheekbones. The body is a nation, a tribe dug into stone, a solid white blood broken to shards. Provinces invade, bombs, shot, shell, artillery, sniper fire, helicopter, gunship, grenade, burning, murder, landmine, starvation. The ceasefire lasts 48 hours, then a shell explodes in a market. Pain, vomit, neuropathy, morphine nightmare, confusion, direct terror, the vice. Vincristine aracetamine cytotoxin VP16, loss of memory, loss of language, losses, pneumosis, Carini pneumonia, Bactrim, firmless, unmitigated C without C, delirium, whip marks of pedicine, multiple blisters of herpes zoster. And how are you doing today? I am doing one afternoon. The sun came out. Moss took on greenishness. Leaves fell. The market opened. A loaf of bread. A sparrow. A bony dog wandered back, sniffing a laugh. It might be possible to take up a pencil. Unwritten stanzas, taken up and touched. beautiful, terrible sentences unuttered. The sea, unrelenting wave, gray, the sea, flotsam without islands, broken crates, block after block, the same house, the mall, no cathedral, no hobo jungle, the same women and men, they long to drink hayfields. No, without monkey, or lily, without garlic.
That's the, then we get into society. I think we'll start, yeah. Aaron, you're going to do Agassiz. You're going to do the most unbelievable part. Marjorie Agassiz is a poet from Chile. And she writes about the overthrow of the Allende government.
The most unbelievable part. The most unbelievable part, they were people like us. Good manners, well educated and refined, versed in abstract science, always took a box for the symphony, made regular trips to the dentist, attended very nice prep schools. Some played golf. Yes, people like you and me, family men, grandfathers, uncles, and godfathers. But they went crazy, delighted in burning children and books, played at decorating cemeteries, bought furniture made of broken bones, dined on tender ears and testicles, thought they were invincible, meticulous in their duties, and spoke of torture in the language of surgeons and butchers.
Margaret Randall is another wonderful poet. She and Dennis knew each other. We had them do a program together. 1968, the Olympics was in Mexico City, and there were riots, and the police went crazy, and there were massacres. And Margaret was a poet, a journalist, a photographer. And at that point, they could control the press, and there was nothing in any of about these things. And Dennis flew in from London to Mexico City. And Margaret handed him the article and photographs, and he flew back to London and broke the story, which is amazing. When Lamont comes back, he'll read Margaret's poem. There's a great book called What Saves Us. Some of these poems come from it. It's a collection by Martina Spada. This is one of the poems that was in it. It's My Two Aunts by Jim Daniels. Work at Burger King and McDonald's. One in Newark, the other in Memphis. My two aunts married two drunks. One died, the other disappeared. My two aunts are two alcoholics, recovering. One dates a blind man, the other dates memory, her husband's final day, breathing his own blood. Their alcoholic sons have married and divorced. Their children are sad and overweight. They are tall and stutter. They have imaginary illnesses that they blame their fathers. They blame their mothers. They smoke one endless cigarette. But my two aunts, they're saying, may I help you? And Big Mac and fries, and Whopper and fries, They are amazed by and resigned to the goofy hats and the polyester slacks. They take orders from bosses younger than their children. They pledge allegiance to the Burger Corp. After work, they put their feet up and reach for the imaginary drink. One lost the condo paying off shared credit cards after the divorce. The other lost the house after the husband lost his salesman's job after 27 years, lost his factory job after 6 months, ended up a janitor swigging wine in the broom closet. My two aunts take off their sour uniforms and sleep or don't sleep, depending. Big Mac and Quarter Pounder, Whopper, itchy collar, swollen feet. No more Cheerios for dinner, no more shakes and instant regrets, no more half-gallon vodka, guilt, and lies. One aunt bites holes in her lips and takes community college classes in math. The other started aerobics with matching leotard and sweatband. It's a matter of time, they both say. I'm getting on my feet again. AA, the church, belief, addiction, belief. May I help you, please? Please, may I help you? One aunt wants her marriage annulled. They were teenagers and not in their right minds for 30 years. The other says she stopped visiting the grave, but hasn't. My two aunts are getting their lives together. They have shed their soggy dreams. They are selling hamburgers in America for minimum wage. They're trying to shed their scales and bad news. If only they could give up on bad news, swear it off. What put them here? Pressing buttons, handing out change. Thank you, yes, here is your order. My two aunts spoke now, more than they ever drank. My two aunts, one way or another, we will kill them. If you read Margaret's poem.
Oh, sure.
I think Larry has it up on the podium.
Oh, yeah, I left it up there, right.
There it is.
Margaret Randall was known for giving up her U.S. citizenship and them trying to make it so that she could never be an American citizen again. She married Joel Oppenheimer of atomic energy fame. Everyone Lied by Margaret Randall. We wanted to make the world a better place, but everyone lied. Fought power with humble flesh, blood, brilliance, and the luck of the innocent. The enemy's lies assaulted us. Their language diminished our numbers, turned us against one another, touched lovers, confused our sense of who we were and why. And we lied about them, claimed they were drug dealers and murderers, all their food poisoned, all their streets unsafe. Then we lied about our own, sowed serious doubt, set fatal traps. Of course we lied to the CIA and others who tortured us, but also to our parents, children, and those who came to us for truth. We lied by omission, convinced we must reveal no contradiction. I think they want me to say reveal no contradiction. The real story could only benefit those who would destroy the dream, who wanted us dead, accounts to be settled later. We lied to protect our own, and then to justify not protecting our own, we lied on a need-to-know basis, parroted our leaders, even when they pretended genocide away. We failed to question his disappearance. 100 knife wounds in her body. Followed our leaders who lied to us, then lied to ourselves. The pain that changed our molecules, until later
turned out to be the promise we could not keep. A tired ghost destined to wander hollow-eyed. The lie that would come back to haunt. A sacrifice too big to name. It's a matter of time, they both say. I'm getting on my feet again. Oh, that's
No.
that's another phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that was the end of that.
What?
No, I think that was the end of that.
Yeah. Okay. Or like some homicide detectives say, that was the damnedest case of suicide I ever saw in my life.
Again, this, talking about things you don't talk about. And I think this is a significant poem, because it's the trap you get into, in defense. I mean, you're defending the dream. But if you start, it has to be true. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to end with Ilya Kaminsky. He wrote a wonderful book. Called Death for a Public. And I'm going to read the first and last poem. And in the middle, there's a story in poetry. And it's not hearing. He's deaf. You can't obey rules because you can't hear them. You can't do what you're told. You don't hear them. It's interesting. So the two poems, the very first poem in the book is "We lived happily during the war. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling. Invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous rain, in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money, we, forgive us, lived happily during the war. And the last poem in the book, Ilya Kaminsky is a Ukrainian poet. He came here as a teenager. He was winning poetry prizes in English and in Russian. So this is the last poem in the book. It's called In a Time of Peace. Inhabitants of Earth for 40-something years, I once found myself in a peaceful country. I watched neighbors open their phones, to watch a cop demanding a man's driver's license. When the man reaches for his wallet, the cop shoots into the car window, shoots. It is a peaceful country. We pocket our phones and go to the dentist to buy shampoo, pick up the children from school, get basil. Ours is a country in which a boy shot by police lies on the pavement for hours. We see his mouth open, the nakedness of the whole nation. We watch others watch. The body of a boy lies on the pavement exactly like the body of a boy. It is a peaceful country. And it clips our citizens' bodies effortlessly, the way the president's wife trims her toenails. All of us still have to do the hard work of dental appointments, of remembering to make a summer salad, basil, tomatoes. It is a joy. Tomatoes, add a little salt. This is a time of peace. I do not hear gunshots, but watch birds splash the backyards of the suburbs. How bright as the avenue spins on its axis, how bright is the sky, forgive us, how bright